the first human book ever submitted to the Galactic Archives, was immediately flagged as fraudulent. Not offensive. Not dangerous. Fraudulent. Archive officials concluded that the document contained thousands of factual inaccuracies, dozens of fabricated individuals, and multiple events that had never occurred. The human who submitted it seemed confused by the accusation. "It's a novel," she explained. The archivist requested clarification. The human blinked. "You know." A pause. "Fiction." The investigation that followed would reveal something astonishing. The galaxy had encountered human art before. Human music, human paintings, human entertainment. But somehow, no one had ever realized that humans routinely invented entire worlds for fun. From the archives of the Kindled Quill, the Galactic Archives existed for one purpose: preservation of knowledge. Every member species contributed records, scientific discoveries, historical accounts, cultural documentation, technical manuals, educational materials. The system had functioned successfully for thousands of cycles. Information was valuable. Accuracy was sacred. Truth was expected. When species created stories, they documented actual events. Dramatized, perhaps. Simplified for education, but always rooted in reality. The concept of intentionally creating false events without the intention to deceive simply did not exist. Which is why archivist Kelvor became deeply concerned when the human submissions arrived. The first document described a farm boy who destroyed a stellar empire. The second involved a detective solving crimes on a city-sized space station. The third featured dragons. Every document contained names, locations, and events that could not be verified. Thousands of fictional species appeared throughout human records. Most had no equivalent anywhere in known space. One, however, triggered an unexpected alert. The creature appeared in a fantasy novel submitted for preservation. Massive. Winged. Scaled. Capable of flight and extraordinary intelligence. The archive system automatically cross-referenced known species. A partial match was found. Archivist Kelvor requested clarification. He contacted the Terran Cultural Office and displayed an illustration from the novel. A great reptilian beast perched atop a mountain of treasure. Kelvor pointed at the image. "This creature, you call it a dragon?" "Yeah." The resemblance to a draconian is obvious. The human frowned. "A what?" "A draconian." The human stared. Kelvor stared back. "A draconian," he repeated. The species in question. The human slowly leaned forward. "You have those?" "Of course." "Since when?" Kelvor consulted his records. "Approximately 12,000 cycles." The human blinked, then blinked again. "No." "No, no, no." "Back up." For the next several minutes, neither participant understood why the other appeared confused. Kelvor was attempting to determine why humans had inaccurately depicted a real species. The human was attempting to determine why nobody had mentioned that dragons apparently existed. Eventually, Kelvor returned to the original question. "The description is highly inaccurate." "It is?" "The behavioral patterns, the physiology, the social structure." The human frowned. "We made all that up." Kelvor paused. "You created this creature independently?" "Sure." "Why?" The human shrugged. "Because dragons are awesome." The statement was entered into the official record. It did not improve understanding. A formal review committee was assembled. Members examined thousands of human works, ancient myths, modern novels, theatrical productions, interactive simulations. The findings became increasingly alarming. Humans did not merely create fictional individuals. They created fictional civilizations, entire planets, languages, histories stretching back thousands of years. Some humans spent decades developing worlds they knew were not real. The committee suspected a psychological disorder. Surely no rational species would invest so much effort into fabricating events. Then they discovered something even stranger. Humans did not only imagine things that never happened. They imagined things that could happen. Alternate histories, possible futures, different outcomes. Entire branches of reality explored through narrative. One archive analyst spent 6 months studying human military fiction. His report concluded that humans routinely simulated strategic scenarios decades before encountering them in reality. Another researcher analyzed medical fiction. Several fictional concepts had later inspired actual technological development. The committee became concerned. The distinction between imagination and planning was becoming difficult to identify. The breakthrough came during a symposium attended by representatives from dozens of species. Archivist Kelvor presented a final question. If these events are not real, then what purpose do they serve? A human author considered the question carefully. Then she pointed toward the audience. How many of you have experienced extinction? No limbs rose. How many have experienced first contact with a hostile civilization? A handful of representatives indicated agreement. Less than 1% of the room. How many have lived as someone from another species? Silence. The author nodded. Neither have I. She opened a book. But for a few hours, she smiled. I can. The room remained quiet. The human continued. Fiction isn't about lying. It's about practicing empathy. Several translators paused before rendering the final word. Empathy. Many searched their datapads for a definition. The ability to experience another perspective. The author continued. Another life. Another choice. Another consequence. Without ever leaving your chair, the realization spread through the audience. Other species preserved knowledge. Humans preserved possibilities. Where others recorded what was, humans explored what could be. Every novel was a simulation. Every story was an experiment. Every fictional world was a safe place to test ideas, emotions, fears, and dreams before reality demanded answers. For the first time, Kelvor understood. Humans were not creating falsehoods. They were creating experience. The Galactic Archives ultimately established an entirely new classification category: fictional works. The designation required thousands of new indexing protocols. Human submissions immediately became the largest section in the archives. Unexpectedly, other species began participating. Military academies used human fiction to explore crisis scenarios. Diplomats used it to study unfamiliar perspectives. Scientists used it to imagine solutions that did not yet exist. Within a decade, several species had begun creating fictional works of their own. The archives later credited human storytelling with accelerating cultural exchange across multiple sectors. Not because the stories were true, but because they allowed others to understand truths that facts alone could never convey. Because humans are the only species that looked at reality and decided reality wasn't enough. So they invented 1,000 more worlds, then invited the galaxy to visit them.